spent several hours with him, and then right before, you heard what happened. I went to go see him a couple times. They say he's not going to make it.
No.
But when we talked about his time when he met you, he tells a couple stories that I wanted to ask you about specifically. I guess you guys were playing up in Wisconsin together, and you were a catcher back then?
That was Kittle, probably.
Oh, that was Kittle?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you ever a catcher?
In high school.
Okay, all right. And then he tells me the story about I guess it was the 2003 when you guys got together for the '83 team. And can you just tell me, you saw him?
Yeah. Well, when I first came back to the White Sox, Jerry Reinsdorf was encouraging us to get former White Sox players to come back to the organization. So I started inviting, when I got the big league hitting coaching job, I started inviting people to come down and spend a week. Lamar Hoyt, Scott Fletcher, Kevin Hick. And I think we ended up doing fantasy camp together. Either I saw him at the '83 reunion and asked him could he throw left-handed BP, because we didn't have anybody that could do it at the time. So we invited him down for a week, and the players really liked him as a person and liked what he could do. And so we asked him could he stay to the end of spring training. So they said sure. And then the players got to know him even better and fell in love with him, and so they hired him and asked him to be a full-time batting practice pitcher.
Now, the story that he told me was also that, we said it was a golf outing or something you guys had to get together in 2003, and he said, Walk was there, and Walker asked me what I'm doing, and I tell him, well, I used to sell cars, but now I got diabetes, I'm a bus stop living with my mom, and it was more of also a kindness thing on your part. What was it like when you saw him again after so long?
Well, it was great. I've always had a lot of friends. He was on that '83 team, and we've all remained close. Got a lot of friends off that team, and I knew the situation Kevin was in, and I knew he was a White Sox guy at heart, and I knew he was a South Side Chicago guy, and he had a skill set. I mean, it wasn't just that he was a nice guy. He was a nice guy. He's a great guy, but he could do something that could help us. So if I'd have just told him he's a nice guy, he wouldn't have got the job. But he could throw left-handed batting practice, which was a commodity. He worked extremely hard. He could throw tirelessly. He could throw breaking balls. He'd throw all day long. And so he earned the job. It wasn't given to him. He earned it. And the other thing that he did special for the last 8-10 years is bring energy every day. He literally brought energy every day. You never had to worry about the bench being dead. I mean, the guy, chatterbox would be a nice way of putting it, but he ran his mouth the whole game and cheered and was into it and let's go and rah-rah stuff. But sometimes in baseball that gets hard to do. But he brought it every day. And when you're around somebody like that, it rubs off on you.
Can you tell me any stories you remember about him from '83?
Well, it was a real eccentric group of personalities, and we had fun. It was a mix of young guys, veteran guys, and we had a really good team, and we played well together and won. Almost got to the World Series. But he was a big part of the clubhouse mix. He's in an important part of the bullpen. But he had the same energy and all that back then too. Just more hair.
Now, in 2005, when you guys won the series, the guy, he told me the story about how the guys voted him to have a full share and all that. And,
rightfully so.
Yeah. Tell me about how he, as you're the hitting coach and he's the batting practice pitcher, how did he help those guys?
Well, what happened? First of all, he works. He came to work every day. Both on and off the field. He was behind guys. He was pulling for them. They knew it. Any kind of work you wanted, he'd be there for you. I remember the first time Hick, right after he came for the first spring training, and they decided that he was going to travel with us full time. Well, we started in Kansas City, and I had my first, meeting of the year to go over the pitcher, but just to say, hey, let's wish you all well, let's fight the fight, do all the good stuff. And I asked the team, I said, anybody got anything to say? And maybe a veteran or two stood up, and then all of a sudden Hick stands up in the middle of the cage and gives this rah-rah, hey, let's go. And, I don't remember the exact words, but it was like, wow, this guy just made the team, basically. And he's getting up in a meeting and saying, hey, let's go get him. And it was cool, and the players loved it. Everybody kind of took everybody aback, and they said, wow, this guy's into it, okay. But it was more than just a job for him, it was a passion.
And one of the things like the overarching theme of the book is kind of the theme in his life was never give up, and I'm probably going to call it winning ugly after the team.
Yeah.
Because when he won the World Series, that's the ugly way to do it.
It was fun. It was fun to see him get his life back in order. The White Sox have always been great about treating family, being loyal, and getting back into the game. And if I had a small part of it, then I'm proud of that, because it did change his life. He got healthy. Probably the last 8-10 years have been some of the happiest years of his life.
Yeah.
And he earned every bit of it. It wasn't given to him. He earned it.
What do you think, from your perspective, seeing that happen? I mean, you say a small part, you got him in there, but he was with you guys for those years. What would you say about it that's a lesson for everybody to learn from Kevin Hickey?
Well, I think what you said is he never gave up. He's a fighter. You're not going to beat him without a fight. And he didn't have the greatest stuff as a pitcher, but he went out there and fought you. And he survived and had a nice career. And we all have times when we're down, and he was down. He was at a spot, and maybe it was divine intervention. I don't know. We all ran in together, a perfect storm. He ended up in the right place at the right time. But again, if he wasn't good at what he did, it wouldn't have worked.
Why do you think you guys voted him to have a full share? I mean,
he earned it. He earned it.
Was there any kind of conversation that you?
Yeah, that's strictly between the players. The players made that decision. I had nothing to do with it. And they don't do that out of charity.
Yeah.
They do it out of what you earned, and he earned his full share. That was a great mix of people. It wasn't the greatest team maybe that year, or the talent. It was a good team, really good team.
Yeah.
But it was just a mix of people that came to work every day, and that's kind of what Hick did. He came to work every day.
He was telling me about I think it was Game 3 of the World Series when Blunt hit a homer, and all the guys were putting up 4 because Group 4 was who he was pitching to that day, and he hit a home run. Is there anything you could tell me about that to help me recreate that?
He took a lot of pride in his job. And if his guys that he threw to that day did well, I mean, he wouldn't be afraid to tell you in kidding. Yeah. But then too, he took pride in the job he did. And there's a couple of things that stand out to him. The first or second year he was there had to be maybe it was the first year. He would throw the ball and stay out of the L screen and look, and he was such a great athlete. He was a great athlete. I mean, he was really a great athlete. But he could get out of the way of the ball. And one day, Joe Creedy was hitting and hit a line drive back at him, and he turned the wrong way, and it hit him right in the back of the head. I thought it had killed him. I really thought he was dead that day. And when me and Joey Cora were on the backfield, and we got to him, it had knocked him out. I mean, he was out, and he was bleeding from the head. So he was new doing it. So we sent him we wouldn't let him throw for like 3 or 4 days. We made him go to the cage and practice, throwing the ball and getting behind the L screen. And he embodies everything. He's just Southside Chicago guy, blue collar, tough guy.
Now, and he made the team based on playing semi-pro ball and then getting a tryout where a bunch of guys with long hairs came through. What he was telling me about it was when he got to Paintsville, Kentucky for the first time, that he was like, what the fuck am I doing, and what am I doing here, and how am I going to do it? But then he just had to keep going. And I know you weren't there for any of that, but when he came back to 2003, did you see that he saw himself in a position and then he took advantage of it, or how would you describe it yourself?
I do. I think he was at a place in his life where he was hungry. Hey, I got a chance again. It's almost like getting your call up to the big leagues. Here's my chance again. I got to perform. And he came to work every day. And anything I wanted him to do, he worked tirelessly. He brought a lot of energy. This 162 game schedule plus spring training gets old.
Yeah.
And a guy with that much energy being around, it's infectious. You just everybody rubs off on everybody.
And is there anything that you remember from the celebration after the World Series in Houston about Hickey? I mean, from your perspective, do you remember anything?
Not really. Just looking around at his room and seeing the people that you went through a whole season with. But in his case, somebody that you've known for a long period of time, 30 years. And to sit there and say, gosh, we did this together, and he's, I'm glad that my friends are getting enjoyed, and I know what their feelings are because I'm feeling it. It's an amazing feeling, an accomplishment. And, it allowed him to help his family out. He was real proud of his daughters and grandkids, or kids now I think it is, but it was good to see him. We'd go into Baltimore and his kids would come out and he was so proud of them. And they'd come down to the dugout and he'd introduce me to them. And I lost contact with him for a long time, so I really didn't know what had happened.
Right.
So, it was neat.
Well, how would you describe his personality as a player? Like, I mean,
The same as a coach. I mean, he just was off the charts energy. You know, just energy and loved life, loved being around. He enjoyed it. He was appreciative.
now, had you won the World Series before you were a coach? Did you win it as a player?
No, I did not win.
What's the difference, do you think? Or, I mean,
Well, I guess the ultimate would be to win it as a player, but there are different satisfactions in winning it as a coach. You know, winning it either place is special.
yeah.
But I think as a player, you'd always love to do it as a player. I came close to being on the team that did it.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big part of the team, but I was a bench player, part-time player. But as a coach, you know, the satisfaction of knowing, hey, you were a small part in this, but and to see the heroic things that people did to accomplish that goal, I'll never forget it. You know, I've never watched the tapes, but I will one day. And but I have a lot of good memories about it. And you know, there's a lot of us. It's a family. You know, we spend a tremendous amount of time with each other. You know, over the years. I mean, we see more of each other during baseball season than we do our families. And it's just you grow. There's a bond, and for a team to accomplish what we accomplished, you know, there's lifetime ties there.
But I'm looking for some detail about the last play, throw to Canerico in the dugout. Where were you at, and what were you doing when? Because Hickey ran out on the field right away. What?
They had a rally going, and Uribe made a couple of great plays. And as soon as the ball was hit, and it looked like an infield hit by Palmeiro, and Uribe comes streaking across the field, I immediately was going to the lineup card to see who was leading off for us, because I thought the game was getting ready to be tied. And Uribe made the play, and it hit me. It's over. And I just said, wow, I can't believe it. It's over. You know, we had a big lead in the series. We were up on 3-0, but it's so fragile. You don't want to lose one game. You don't want to let the momentum turn. So I was already preparing to look at the card to see who we had leading off and start thinking about their next at bat and what needed to be done. And it was over like that. And Uribe made two of the greatest plays in the ninth inning of the history of a World Series.
And how did you celebrate it once you figured out what the hell was going on?
Well, we had a big party that night and one of
I mean, in the dugout.
In the dugout, just the players had already run out.
Yeah.
I think the coaching staff, we were all just looked at each other and we were all right there together. And we just, as a coaching staff and manager, we just hugged each other and said, wow, you know, special stuff. Didn't ever think I'd ever be able to accomplish this or be a small part of it.
Did it make sense that Hickey ran out there with the players like that?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a little hyper. Yeah, Hick was a little hyper. And he was with the players. He was in there every day with them. You know? He almost acted like he was a player, you know?
He was telling me the story that, you know, Bobby Jenks wearing 45, and that was his number. Was super excited for him. Is there anything off the field that you could tell me that might give me some perspective that I might be able to?
Yeah, he wanted to play golf. You know, he got into golf big time, and he was terrible. And he played slow, so I told him, I said, Hick, there's a rule where I come from. If you're going to play bad golf, you have to play fast. But they said he couldn't because he was always cleaning his clubs. He was a clean freak, you know, kind of OCD type deal. But he enjoyed golf. He was like me, he was very good at it, but he absolutely loved it. And he was enjoying life. It's just a shame, you know. It's heartbreaking.
What do you think his legacy will be? I mean, a guy that nobody knows in baseball.
South Side Chicago kid that ends up playing for a team he grew up watching. You know, and then coaching, and then being a part of a World Series team. You know, South Side Chicago people, if they can't identify with Kevin Hickey, you know, who can they? I mean, what's the big softball, 16-inch softball? You know, that was his big thing back in the day. He grew up down there. He grew up a White Sox. He was a South Side kid. You know, it's a great story. You know, it's just a shame it had to end like this.
All right, hey,
all right.
Is there any way you have an email address in case I follow up from you?
G Walker 2929@gmail.com. And am I right in saying today was the day they were going to make the decision?
I'm going to find out.
I
What
mean,
was that? What? Gmail?
hold it. You got to walk out there. Walk out there.